Hello and welcome to another episode of the Worth the Hike podcast. I'm your host B, and this is where I give you tips and tricks for exploring some of the country's most wild landscapes and scenic trails. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and have hiked my entire life. Since the summer of 2020, I've completed 478 trails, visited 33 national parks, and hiked over 1,900 miles. Some of the more notable being Half Dome in Yosemite, the Kalalau Trail on the Nepali coast in Hawaii, and Mount Whitney in Inyo National Forest, the highest peak in the contiguous United States. Today, we are taking a look at arguably the most iconic hike in the great state of Utah, a trail that has been called the most dangerous hike in America. This, of course, is Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. We're going to take a look at just how dangerous this trail is and if it's right for you. We will also take a look at when you should visit, how to get there, and my overall rating for the trail. Let's get into it. First and foremost, I'd highly recommend downloading this podcast now, as you could lose service inside the park. If you were watching this on YouTube, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can scan the QR code on your left for Apple Podcasts and the QR code on your right for Spotify. Links can also be found in the description below. If you were just visiting for the day or planning an entire trip, this information could be the difference in maximizing your journey. Please also download the Google Map for Zion National Park, the All Trails maps for Angel's Landing, Scout Lookout, and whatever other hikes you might be considering. And of course, downloading any other podcasts or music that you'll want to listen to on your drive or hike up. If you're not already, it would be smart to become an All Trails Pro member, so you can start keeping track of your hiking stats and all of the trails you've completed. It costs about $40 a year. And wherever you might be watching, feel free to rate, like, and subscribe. I only post this content in the hopes of being able to help people that love hiking as much as I do. Every little bit of support means the world. Also feel free to reach out on socials, Instagram @WorthTheHikePod, and you can also reach me by email at worththehikepod@gmail.com. Thank you to everyone that has taken the time to watch my work on summiting Half Dome in Yosemite National Park, the Skyline Trail in Mount Rainier National Park, and my latest video in Bryce Canyon National Park. All reviews can be found in the description below. Alright, now we're going to take a look at some of the quick tips before entering Zion National Park and summiting Angel's Landing. Last stops before entering the park. When arriving from the southern entrance into the park, the city of Springdale will have mostly everything you need. This is also the most popular entrance. If you were staying at the Watchman Campground, you can walk to restaurants, pubs, and grocery stores within the city. I'd personally recommend visiting the Happy Camper Market, located only a short walk away, with everything that you could need from food, clothing, gear, firewood, and whatever beverage you might have in mind. They are open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. The city of St. George along I-15, which is 45 minutes away, has more shopping options available like Costco, Safeway, and Whole Foods. St. George Airport, SGU, is also the closest airport to Zion. When entering from the east of the park, there are very few options for buying goods. Kanab City would probably be your best bet. It's about an hour away, and there are occasional convenience stores on the way to the eastern entrance to the park. Gas stations are available at both the south entrance in Springdale and the east entrance in Mount Carmel. Electric vehicle charging can be found throughout the park at several locations and throughout the city of Springdale. Check out the Charge Finder link below in the description for specific locations. You will be able to find pockets of cell service within the park, but it can be a little unreliable at times for downloading. So I would still recommend downloading everything Google Maps, All Trails Maps, music, and podcasts in advance, but you still should be able to find service in the city of Springdale and the Watchman Campground. Wi-Fi is available at the Zion Visitor Center and the Human History Museum. Weather here can be a little tricky as it tends to fluctuate even in the best of months. During the summer, May to September, the park is blazing hot with the potential for frequent thunderstorms, July and August being the worst months. During the winter, October to April, the park can be covered in snow, with many of the trails nearly impossible to use. Most days will be below freezing or close to it. Important to remember that while pets are allowed on paved portions of the park, pets are not allowed on any of the trails except for the Perouse Trail, which begins at the Zion Visitor Center. So make sure to leave the pooches at home if you will be hiking, as it gets way too hot to leave them in vehicles. Service animals are exempt. Check Zion's website for guidelines. Timed entry permits are currently not required in Zion National Park, so you may come and go as you please year-round. That being said, entering through the Springdale entrance can take several hours at peak days and times. If already within the park, consider parking at the visitor center and walking into the city for any forgotten goods. No reservation is required for the Zion Shuttle and is included with your entry fee. It is, however, first come, first served, and is required for venturing into the most popular parts of the park, the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive. During the shuttle season, March to December, you can walk or bike the scenic drive, but it may take several hours. This is where you will find both the Narrows and Angel's Landing trails. Everyone that plans on hiking Angel's Landing is required to have a permit. This is a very difficult permit to get, especially during the peak months and weekends. There are 2 ways to enter the lottery for the permit. The first being the advanced lottery window, when you can enter roughly 2 to 4 months in advance. For example, from January 1st to January 20th, you can enter from the beginning of March to the end of May. From April 1st to April 20th, you can enter from the beginning of June to the end of August. From July 1st to July 20th, you can enter from the beginning of September to the end of November. And on October 1st to October 20th, you can enter for the beginning of December to the end of February. There's also 3 different entry time choices to choose from. Option 1 being before 9 a.m., Option 2 being between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m., and Option 3 being after 12 p.m. There's also the day before lottery, where you can enter from 12:01 a.m. to 3 p.m. the day before your desired hike. All of this can be completed on recreation.gov. The odds of getting a permit vary from who you talk to. People online will say it's about a 40% shot if you enter both lotteries. I spoke with park staff and was told that the odds are around 20%. If you are driving a larger vehicle, there is some important information you'll need to know if you plan on driving all the way through the park or plan on entering through the eastern entrance. In order to complete the whole drive, you'll have to go through the Mount Carmel Tunnel, which is just over a mile long and a very cool experience. Now let's get into the 4.3 mile trail with over 1,800 feet of elevation gain. That's been called the most dangerous hike in America. The hike usually takes around 4 hours to complete. First thing you'll need to make sure you have is a screenshot of your permit available on your phone or a printed copy. The rangers will additionally ask for matching ID. Remember that these permits can only be obtained at recreation.gov, and the advanced lottery approximately 2 to 4 months before, or the day before lottery that runs from 12:01 a.m. to 3 p.m. the day prior. The essential gear that you'll want to bring: a sturdy pair of hiking boots, sunscreen, a hat, sunglasses, a snack, and plenty of water, a minimum of a couple liters. Normally I recommend hiking sticks on a trail with this much elevation gain, but you'll find they get in the way on the scramble portion of Angel's Landing. Also check for thunderstorms or rain in the forecast before leaving the visitor center, as this will be your last spot with service. From March to December, the shuttle will be the only way to access the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive by motor vehicle, which is where you will find the trailhead for Angel's Landing. The shuttle departs from the visitor center starting at 6 a.m. until 8:15 p.m. from May 19th to September 15th, with rides being given on a first-come, first-served basis. Make sure to check your Angel's Landing start time, as this will be the time you'll want to arrive at the trailhead. Once on board the bus, you'll be getting off at stop number 6, the Grotto. Keep an eye out for any wildlife, as turkeys and mule deer frequent this area quite often. Make sure to use the restroom and fill up your water bottles at this stop. This will be the last opportunity to do so. I'd recommend drinking at least a liter before you begin your hike to make sure you're adequately hydrated, as this is an extremely exposed hike. You will cross the road to the footbridge crossing the Virgin River, taking a right on the West Rim Trail, continuing on this for half a mile along the riverside heading towards Angel's Landing. This area is known as Refrigerator Canyon. The elevation will begin to increase as you begin to hike away from the river, gaining 500 feet in half a mile. The paved portion of the trail begins here as well. Keep an eye out for songbirds and beautiful wildflowers as you make your ascent. As you climb the switchbacks, make sure to look back and take in the views of the park. You'll see rolling orange mountains of sedimentary rock on either side of the river and vegetation consuming the valley floor. Please do be careful here, as the path is only a few feet wide with traffic going in both directions and a sheer drop-off with no railing. People with children should be especially careful. You'll take a left away from the valley and continue into a canyon for about a half a mile before reaching the next set of switchbacks. This section is fairly flat and easy to traverse, with a good amount of shade. Please keep your voices down, as this is home to the endangered Mexican spotted owl, which is disturbed by loud noises, including yelling and music. The next section is famously known as Walter's Wiggles, a series of 21 steep switchbacks where you'll be gaining 200 feet of elevation in under 2/10 of a mile. Built in 1926 and named after Zion's first superintendent, Walter Roosh, this area can be very sun exposed depending on the time of day, and is arguably the most difficult part of the hike. You will now be arriving at Scout Lookout, a tremendous viewpoint where you get arguably the best view of Angel's Landing. This is where the permitted portion of the trail begins, and you will have a ranger inspection at the Angel's Landing trailhead. Make sure to not arrive before your permit time or you will be rejected. If you do not have a permit, I would suggest continuing up the West Rim Trail for just a bit, and you will run into one of the best views in all of Zion, a great spot to take a seat and grab lunch, while you watch others attempting the dramatic climb of Angel's Landing. There's also a restroom available here. Important to remember that hiking Angel's Landing without a permit can result in a $5,000 fine and or 6 months in jail. Beginning the trail, you will have another half a mile and 500 feet of elevation to gain. This hike is considered a Class 3 difficulty, meaning it will be scrambling and or unroped climbing. You will use your hands most of the time to grasp the terrain. You will notice the first of many chains anchored into the rock. They will become your best friend as you begin your journey, carefully following the footholds carved into the rocks from thousands of climbers. Be wary of climbers descending, as you will have to share the chains and footholds with them. There will be sheer drop-offs on either side. This trail offers an eerie resemblance to summiting Half Dome in Yosemite National Park, for those wondering what to expect. As you continue to climb, you will run into an exposed ridge known as the beginning of the spine or hog's back, a path only a foot or two wide with a 1,000-foot drop-off on either side. If you have a fear of heights, this is where that will truly kick in. Make sure to carefully watch your step and hold onto the chains. The wind can start to pick up here as well, throwing you off balance. Take your time and be patient, as this area can get easily congested from hikers going in both directions. You'll begin heading slightly downward until you reach a section of greenery where the trail begins to widen slightly, and the risk of sudden death doesn't seem so apparent. Many tall rocks that require climbing on all fours to scale appear. Make sure that all your belongings are neatly tucked away in your backpack. This area is almost completely exposed to the sun, so you'll want to make sure you put on sunscreen beforehand. Using and following the chains is a must, as this will keep you safe and on the correct portion of the trail. The switchbacks will create blind spots in portions. You will need to communicate with other hikers and take turns in these dangerous spots, as only one of you will be able to hold onto the chains at a time. Because if you don't, you will risk falling while attempting to pass. You'll feel the elevation increasing as you begin to get closer to the top. Remembering that you are already above 5,000 feet, you may start to feel quite winded when climbing on all fours. The more strenuous the elevation, and the more exposed you are to the sun, closer you are to summiting Angel's Landing. This is definitely the part where people start to lose steam. Important to remember that there is a huge rest area at the top, and you will be thanking yourself for pushing through. Finally, after all of your hard work, you have made it to the top of Angel's Landing. The surface is relatively flat and about 100 yards long. There are plenty of spots to take a seat and enjoy some lunch. Most of the area is completely exposed, so if you're looking for some shade, make sure to take a seat at the first trees you see, as the furthest point is completely bare. You can technically move down the surface if it is too crowded, but descend at your own risk. Much like the view at the first set of switchbacks, you get to see the entire valley open up in front of you and behind you. To the south, you will be able to take in Refrigerator Canyon, the Virgin River, and all of the glowing peaks on either side that beautifully frame the incredible image. A view that has made this the most popular hike in Zion. To the north, you get a similar but different view, with the rock walls beginning to close and form what is known as the Narrows far in the distance, and the end of the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive. If you carefully look up on the eastern side of the canyon, you will notice the end to another popular trail known as Observation Point, my personal favorite view in the park, but we will get into that more later. Do be careful of rock squirrels, though, as they are vicious and in every area of the park, even at the top of Angel's Landing, attempting to steal your food and sneak into your bag. The name Angel's Landing comes from Methodist minister Frederick Vining Fisher in 1916, who stated that the area was so beautiful that only an angel could land here. I'd recommend taking in the views for as long as possible. The difficulty of getting a permit isn't going to get any easier, and you do not know the next time you'll have an opportunity to come back. While the permitting process is annoying, it is crucial to maintaining a functioning trail, reducing the risk of injury and death. I completed Angel's Landing in 2019, and the overwhelming crowds made it feel far scarier and heavily increased the odds of tragedy. Permits are almost always a good thing when it comes to the national park system. This trail can be tough and very risky in parts. Its reputation as the most dangerous hike in America may be overstated, but not without some truth. There have been 16 reported deaths exclusively from this hike. To complete this trail is no small feat and an incredible accomplishment for all, and should be celebrated for what it is. A bucket list hike for many, and an incredible accomplishment for all. As you begin your descent, remember that people will still be coming up, and to give them the right of way so that they can safely complete this incredible milestone too. Going down is also incredibly tough on your knees, and does not stop when Angel's Landing ends. Both sets of switchbacks can be very tough, especially after that tough climb that you just completed. Also important to make sure you're being mindful of the time, because if you miss the last shuttle back to the visitor center, you will have to walk the entire way back. Congratulations on a job well done, truly a notch in the belt that you will not soon forget. After all of that, I'd like to give an overall rating for the trail. I base it on 4 different categories: the highlights, the uniqueness, the accessibility, and the drawbacks, each of which I will give a score out of 25. First, the highlights. The breathtaking views, the endless colors, the abundance of plants and wildlife. This place is truly the best that Utah has to offer. Getting the ability to hike one of the most heart-throbbing and intense trails in the national park system, while also taking in the beauty and majesty of this place all at the same time. An absolutely incredible adventure only rivaled by its overwhelming beauty. Without a doubt, this is a 25 out of 25. The uniqueness. This is a globally sought-after destination. Few parks carry the same weight. Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, and Zion rank at the very top of the list. This park has earned its incredible reputation from adventure seekers from all over the world. Finding a day hike like Angel's Landing anywhere else in the US is almost impossible, with the combination of views, beauty, and adventure all found so close to civilization. It's nearly the perfect park that you'll never stop trying to go back to. Without a doubt, a definitive 25 out of 25. Accessibility. The park as a whole is extremely accessible. Las Vegas is only 2 hours away, and a manageable airport in St. George only 45 minutes away. Dozens of different places to stay with hotels, Airbnbs, and campsites ranging from cheap to luxurious. The limiting factor comes from the permitting process for Angel's Landing. It is a tough one to get, and I personally have failed many times. While this may make it tougher to live out your dreams of crossing Angel's Landing off your list, it honestly is a necessary step that the park needed to take. When you finally do get to conquer this hike, it will be a much safer and more enjoyable experience. This is a 23 out of 25. And finally, the drawbacks. As with many of my videos, the problem lies with the popularity of these places, much of which is spurred by social media, some of which is unavoidable, but often you will run into folks that do not respect this incredible landscape they are visiting, whether it's littering, playing music, or damaging landmarks. With Zion being one of the most popular parks in the national park system, and Angel's Landing being its most popular destination, you're bound to run into people who do not take care of this place. Unfortunately, it is so well known that it attracts every type of person. Try to show up early and during the shoulder seasons if possible. The crowds here can be relentless at times, and combined with the heat can make it an absolute nightmare. With that, I'd give it a 20 out of 25. This is the best that Utah has to offer, a combination of beauty and adventure that can be found nowhere else on Earth. A globally known landmark with name recognition from those who have never even been to the United States. The drawing of a beautiful painting with a bucket list adventure that few will ever get to experience in their lives. A site so beautiful that it draws its many names, Zion and Angel's Landing, from biblical text, the only words deemed worthy to describe such a place. Zion as a whole should be immediately added to your list of future adventures, and its crown jewel, Angel's Landing, a site so beautiful, only an angel can land here, should be your next goal to accomplish. Overall, I'm giving this a 93 out of 100. All right, now we're going to take a look at some of the alternative trails inside the park. You have the Zion Canyon Overlook, which is just under a mile, and you gain 150 feet of elevation. Super accessible, family-friendly. Just try to get there early because the parking fills up quick. You have the Subway, which is 7.2 miles with around 1,400 feet of elevation gain. This is an amazing hike. I actually did it this year. The permit's pretty tough to get, though, but an awesome experience overall. Observation point via East Mesa Trail, 7 miles round trip with 700 feet of elevation gain. My absolute favorite view in the park. You look down on Angel's Landing. You can see the whole park in almost a 180-degree viewpoint. I just absolutely love this area. I think it's so cool. You have to drive outside of the park to get to the trailhead, and depending on the weather, you may require four-wheel drive. I would probably have it anyways. The roads can be a little bumpy and they're dirt going in. The Narrows, you have the bottom up to Big Springs, which is 8.9 miles round trip, 700 feet of elevation gain. I've done a majority of this one. Doable. If you're not able to walk in water or you have kids, I probably wouldn't go too far on this one. You can go experience it, but the deeper you go, just the more dangerous it gets. If there's any signs whatsoever of floods, just avoid this trail at all costs. You can die instantly because there's only rock around here, so there's nothing to soak up any rain, so it all just goes into the river, and you're trapped in between huge rock walls in the Narrows, so it's just a safety hazard. There's also the River Walk, which is just the lead up to the Narrows. It's 1.9 miles, 200 feet of elevation gain. It's great for family, elderly folk. Great option if you're just looking for something else to do. Outside the park, some of the trails that I recommend that are nearby: Cedar Breaks National Monument. You have the Bartizan Arch Trail, 5 miles, 1,100 feet of elevation gain. Super pretty area. Very similar to Bryce, but just a little quieter. Bryce Canyon Rim Trail, 10.7 miles round trip, 1,600 feet of elevation gain. Also in Bryce Canyon, you have Queen's Garden Trail, which is 2.1 miles round trip, 500 feet of elevation gain. The Navajo Trail in Bryce, 1.5 miles round trip, 500 feet of elevation gain. You have the Peekaboo Loop, which is 5.2 miles round trip, 1,500 feet of elevation gain. You have the Fairyland Loop, which is 7.9 miles round trip, 1,500 feet of elevation gain. Now we move over to Capitol Reef National Park. You have the Hickman Bridge Trail, which is 1.7 miles, 400 feet of elevation gain, and Cassidy Arch Trail, which is 3.1 miles and 700 feet of elevation gain. All of these are just an excellent example of what Utah has to offer. Not quite as adventurous as what Zion has to offer, but just as beautiful, if not more so. Directions to Zion. All right, so if you're coming into Las Vegas, that'll be your closest major airport with a drive time of about 2 hours and 15 minutes, excellent flights with cheap car rental options. There's also Salt Lake City, which is 3.5 hours away. Also has great flight and rental options. And of course, St. George, as we previously discussed. It's only about 45 minutes away. Flights are going to be a little more difficult, same with car rental options. But again, if you're just trying to get close, this is an amazing option. The best time to visit the park is during the summer months, May to September. I'd personally recommend visiting during either May or September to avoid school children on summer break, but still getting the benefits of the beautiful sunny weather, usually in the 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit during these months. Also, if you come in the summer, July and August are when thunderstorms are most prevalent, so it's best to avoid those if possible. You can visit year-round. Just remember that if you're visiting outside of that May to September window, that October to April, you do run the risk of running into snow and cold weather and just trails not being accessible. All right, now we're going to take a look at how crowded Zion gets. Approximately 5 million people visited in 2023 and has steadily increased every year. That is an increase of nearly 90% since 2010. A vast majority of those visited during the summer months, May to September. I'd recommend arriving at the park before 8 a.m. to avoid long lines. Thankfully, there are many great hotel options in Springdale, so finding a spot near the park is not a problem. Best way to avoid them, weekdays, parking in Springdale, visiting off-season months, December through February, less crowded areas of the park, planning your trip ahead of time so that you're not stuck at the visitor center, riding your bike to avoid shuttles. Parking in Zion is very limited, even in the visitor center, which has by far the most parking available. It usually fills up by 8 a.m. during the summer months. Most of the major attractions will have very limited parking. I mean, we're literally talking about some of the most popular spots having less than a dozen spots. So you're going to be walking a long way. So just try to show up early if you have a certain destination in mind. There are 2 separate shuttle services stemming from Zion National Park. The first being the Zion Canyon line, starting at the Zion National Park Visitor Center, and takes you down the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive, as we previously discussed. A road that is not accessible during the shuttle season, which typically runs from March to early December. Many of the park's most popular stops are along this shuttle route. The Zion Lodge with the Emerald Pools Trail, the Grotto with Angel's Landing, and the Temple of Sinawave, which is where you'll find the Narrows Trailhead. In total, there are 9 stops with a round-trip drive time of 1.5 hours. Shuttles arrive every 5 to 10 minutes, starting at 6 a.m. in the morning and ending at 8:15 at night during the summer months. May 19th to September 15th on a first-come, first-served basis. Hours will be shortened during the shoulder season. Check Zion's website for the most up-to-date information. The shuttle is covered with your entrance fee to the park. Pets are not allowed on the shuttle bus. Neither is eating or smoking. The second line is a Springdale line, a 5-minute walk from the visitor center at the Zion Canyon Village. There's also 9 stops on this route, stopping at a variety of hotels and restaurants throughout the city. The shuttle runs from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the summer months, May 19th to September 15th. There's additional parking in the city of Springdale if the parking lot is full at the visitor center. The Zion Human Museum and the Zion Natural Center also offer additional parking. Entry fees for the park. Your minimum is going to be a 7-day for a single vehicle, which costs $35. There's also a Zion Annual Pass that gives you unlimited access for 365 days to Zion exclusively for $70. There's the America the Beautiful Pass, which is what I own and highly recommend to everyone. Gets you access to all national park lands for $80 a year. There's the Lifetime Senior Pass for people 62 plus, which is $80 for a one-time pass, but if you lose it, you will have to buy a new one. There's the Annual Senior Pass, which is $20 a year for everyone 62 plus. There is the Access Pass, which is free for disabled individuals who meet certain criteria. Feel free to check out Zion's website for specific details. There's the Lifetime Military Pass, which is free for Gold Star families and veterans, and the Annual Military Pass, which is free for currently serving members of the armed forces and their dependents. There's also the Volunteer Pass for those who have done 250 hours of service at federal recreation sites. Feel free to check out Zion's website for details details. There's also the 4th grade pass, which covers free fee entrance for a vehicle and up to 3 adults and all children under the age of 16. Rules and guidelines will be found in the description below. Taking a look at the Zion National Park Visitor Center. Quick note for my National Park passport stamp collectors out there. You'll be able to grab one at the Zion Park store, open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., located in the Visitor Center. Just remember that the store is open an hour later than the Visitor Center, so if you want any information on trails or backpacking, make sure to get there a little early because it does close at 7 p.m. This is an incredible gift shop with hundreds of awesome souvenirs. Honestly, one of my favorite in all of the national park system. I seem to find something new every time I go here. Keep an eye out for the Deneen coffee mug. Zion has an incredible selection, all sorts of different shapes, sizes, and colors, honoring different spots within the park. I always recommend visiting before hitting the trails because your hiking adventure will likely take longer than you anticipate, and the shop will most likely be closed when you're finished. This facility has a variety of other services, including restrooms, drinking water, hiking permits, shuttle stops, first aid, ranger help desk, park films, history, and geological information. If you don't already know, the Passport Stamp is a program started by the National Park System where whenever you visit a visitor center for a federally owned park, they have a stamp with the park's name and current date on it. It really makes for an awesome keepsake and costs only $13 for a book. It's the best way to keep track of all your adventures. If you'd like to take a photo with the national park signs, you can find them at both the south and eastern entrances of the park right before you enter. There will be areas to pull off. You can also find one at the visitor center. There is a second visitor center located to the east of the park, located on exit 40 off of I-15, open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Unless you plan on hiking in the Kolob Canyon area of the park, you'll be traveling pretty far out of the way to visit it. Backcountry permits can be issued at both visitor centers. The visitor center is much smaller with little to no gift shop. I briefly mentioned this already. For supplies, the Happy Camper Market, located in Springdale, has almost everything you could possibly need. Located only 0.2 of a mile from the visitor center, open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. A must for any forgotten supplies, including food, clothing, gear, firewood, and whatever beverage you might have on your mind. It is easily walkable from the Watchman Campground. I would purchase souvenirs at the visitor center, though. It is one of the best in the park system, as I already said. If you're coming from the east side of the park, there is a Subway restaurant, and it is one of the only options for food in the area, with the White Mountain Trading Post being a good spot for gas and snack as well. There's also some unique souvenirs there, so feel free to check it out. A quick rundown of some of the activities you can do in Zion National Park: backpacking, canyoneering. All technical canyoneering requires a wilderness permit inside and outside the park. There's also guided tours, rock climbing, riding bikes both around the park and up to the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive. Photography, both day and night. The shuttle bus also has an audio guide, so when you are taking the shuttle, it can be loud on the bus, but just try to keep an open ear because there is a guided tour as you're driving by sites that you can listen to. There's ATV and off-road vehicle tours outside the park as well. There's also self-guided audio tours that you can listen to on your drive within the park. Okay, so dark sky parks. So this is kind of what I was referencing with the nighttime photography. Zion is what's known as a dark sky park. When you start to visit some of these more isolated parks, some of them have a special designation known as an international dark sky park, a public or private land of substantial size, at least 700 square kilometers or about 173,000 acres, possessing an exceptional or distinguished quality of starry nights and nocturnal environment that is specifically protected for its scientific, nocturnal, educational, and cultural heritage and or public enjoyment. Zion just happens to be one of these parks and should definitely be enjoyed when the sun goes down. You may be able to see the Milky Way. When looking to visit other parks, check to see if they are designated as international dark sky parks. There are 131 in the United States alone. Road tripping in this area is absolutely phenomenal. Southern Utah and northern Arizona are famous for their amazing road tripping routes. This is due to the open roads and plethora of world-renowned sites found in both states. I've personally driven this area close to a dozen times and have seen some of the most amazing one-of-a-kind natural landscapes and landmarks not found anywhere else on Earth. This is a few of the ones that I would recommend checking out if you're in the area. The first one here is technically in Nevada, but it's so cool that I have to throw it on the list. Valley of Fire State Park, located about 30 minutes to 45 minutes north of Vegas. It's absolutely phenomenal, beautiful. It gets crazy hot here though, so you can basically only visit in the off months. Cedar Breaks National Monument, which we talked about a little bit earlier with alternative trails, located about an hour away from Bryce Canyon. Just a stunning park. Bryce Canyon National Park. Feel free to check out my review for all the trails there. It's just absolutely stunning. Arguably the most beautiful park in the entire national park system. Capitol Reef National Park, located about 90 minutes east of Bryce Canyon. You have Page, Arizona, where you can find Antelope Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, and Rainbow Bridge National Monument, along with Lake Powell. You also have Monument Valley, Arches National Park, Canyonlands National Park. If you're going to visit Arches or Canyonlands, just keep in mind that those two are kind of brother-sister parks, and they're only located about 30 to 45 minutes away from each other, so it's a nice 1-2 punch. The city of Moab's right nearby, great food spot. There's Dead Horse Point State Park, which is located near Canyonlands, Goblin Valley State Park, Natural Bridge National Monument, and finally Four Corners. There are 3 campsites in Zion: Watchman, South, and Lava Point campgrounds. Watchman is open year-round with reservations available on recreation.gov 6 months in advance. Electric and tent campsites are available in Watchman with 186 different sites in 6 different areas, A through F. A and B are car camping sites with electric available. Non-electric sites are C, D, and F. E is the group sites for 15 plus people. F is the walk-in tent sites. I've stayed here multiple times. Beautiful area with a great view of the actual Watchman Rock right overhead. All sites come with a spot for a tent or RV, picnic table, and fire pit access. Quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Check-in is anytime after noon, and check-out is 11 a.m. There's access to flush toilets. No showers are available here. There's cell service, the ability to walk to city grocery store, pub, restaurants, and also walkable to the visitor center. The electric campsites, there's 95 in total, or $45 a night. The tent-only campsites, 69 total, or $35 a night. And the group campsites, 6 to 7 of them in total, for $50 to $130 per night, depending on the number of occupants. There are also 2 wheelchair accessible sites for $10 per night. The South Campground is currently closed for a long-term rehabilitation project, and the Lava Point Campground is open from May to September. It's an hour and a half away from the visitor center, southwest along North Collab Terrace. 6 sites total. They are available 2 weeks in advance on recreation.gov. This site is located at 8,000 feet, so cold weather and snow are possibilities. They do have pit toilets and trash cans available, but no running water. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're planning your trip. Vehicles must be shorter than 19 feet long. Lodging inside the park, there's the Zion National Park Lodge, which roughly costs about $250 plus a night. Booking may be tough at times due to the popularity of the park, but when I was researching, the lodge had availability and was actually far cheaper than if you were to book in advance, dropping from $412 per night 2 to 3 months in advance to $257 per night the next day. So definitely just keep an eye on their website and see what options are available. Outside the park, there are tons of options right outside the park in Springdale, surrounding the cities, with hotels, Airbnbs, campgrounds, glamping, and everything in between, ranging from $40 to $600 plus. There should be an option for just about anyone who wants to experience this area. My recommendation would always be to camp at the Watchman Campground inside the park to really get the authentic Zion experience. For backpacking in the park, half of the backpacking campsites are available on a first-come, first-served basis. The other half is released quarterly on the 5th of the month before the start of the quarter. So it would be December 5th for January through March, March 5th for April through June, June 5th for July through September, and September 5th for October through December. All permits must be obtained at either the Zion Canyon Visitor Center Wilderness Desk or the Collab Visitor Center. This can be a very long wait though, especially at the Zion Visitor Center. So showing up when they open at 8 a.m. is crucial. Otherwise you'll be waiting in a really long line, could potentially take hours. You may pick up your permit the day before or the day of your permit date. The person who made the reservation must be present. Permit costs $20 with $7 per person. The permits are non-transferable. As far as backpacking, you have the Laverkin Creek Trail, which has 13 total sites, excellent views in a very isolated area of the park, 14 to 17 miles depending on your exact starting point, 1,700 to 2,200 feet of elevation gain. It looks like an amazing trail. I would highly recommend checking it out. You have the Hop Valley Trail. There's 2 sites on this one, 15 miles, 1,800 feet of elevation gain. The Wildcat Canyon and Connector Trails, 11 miles, 1,300 feet of elevation gain. The West Rim Trail to Lava travel point, 30 miles, 6,400 feet of elevation gain. Remember, the West Rim Trail was the one that we took to get to Angel's Landing. That's the one you actually get to Scout Lookout. So it's just that whole western side there. Very cool area. You have the Virgin River Narrows. So this is top down, 16 miles, 2,000 feet of elevation gain, but this is the top down route. You have the Southwest Desert Trails, 16 miles, 1,900 feet of elevation gain. And finally, the East Rim Trail, which is 11.8 miles, 2,300 feet of elevation gain, currently closed due to a rock fall. Safety within Zion. Zion National Park has a lot of different elements that can make it dangerous. Heat stroke is quite common during the summer months due to excessive heat. Rock falls are frequent and happen at any moment. Trails can potentially be closed for this exact reason. Thunderstorms come unannounced, mainly in the summer months. If you're at any elevation, you are at risk. Snow can strike here as well, making the long curved roads difficult to drive. Flash floods can strike out of nowhere and cause rivers to rise many feet in only a few seconds. As this is a top 10 park for visitation, petty crimes such as theft can be somewhat common, so keep an eye on your belongings. Wild animals do roam this area that could potentially hurt you, but most of the time they want nothing to do with you. Just give them their space if you happen to run into one. Some of the gear that I'd recommend, if you're backpacking, Osprey makes a great backpacking pack. I use the Granite Gear Blaze 60 liter, but it's a pretty big pack, so it may not be for everyone. Backpack cover would be good just to make sure that you can keep your items safe from the rain. Personal favorite item of mine is my Hellnox backpacking chair. It just folds up so compact and saves you when you're in the toughest of spots. The Half Dome REI tent, it's just easy to set up, super high quality, lifetime warranty, tough to beat. The REI Magma sleeping bag, use it every single time. Fantastic product, holds up well. A sleeping bag liner to try to keep your bag clean. For inflatable sleeping pads, nothing beats a Thermarest. It's just so top notch. It is a pricey item, but when you've slept on the ground day after day after day like I have, it will save you and give you so much more energy to actually enjoy your journey. You'll want an inflatable pillow as well, or something to rest your head on. Platypus water filter, there's nothing better in the game. Everyone who I know who's serious about hiking has a platypus, just really top notch. Jetboil, it's, again, this is one of those items that's just so top notch, easy to use, reliable. I've used it at 14,000 feet on Mount Whitney. It's just an absolutely phenomenal product that holds up well. You'll want a fuel canister to go with that, a spork for eating, a first aid kit too, just in case, some sort of fire starter for emergencies, or if you're just getting something going at the campground. Hiking sticks, I use the Cascade ones from Amazon. They're like $25-$30. It's just a great product. They hold up really well. Knee sleeves. I'm super protective of my knees. I like to hike with knee sleeves on. I think it's really vital. Nalgene water bottles, lightweight and durable. Electronics, portable charger. Anchor makes fantastic stuff. I've recommended it to a ton of people. They last forever. I also bring my AirPods and I use an Apple Watch. For dehydrated meals, there's so many awesome options. Mountain House is a good one, but realistically, just try a few of them. You'll find a favorite. Some of my Costco goodies that I pick up are the dried mango, the Korean BBQ jerky, and the Blue Diamond wasabi almonds. For recovery, I use Pedialyte and Liquid IV. And for caffeine, I really like to take Starbucks canned espresso. For hiking boots, I use the Vivo Barefoot. Camp shoes, I usually have a pair of Tevas, or I use Nike to shoot sandals. When I'm hiking, I usually hike in a quarter zip just to help cut down on burning my arms and also give myself a little bit of ventilation. Boonie hat just to cover up my whole head. Sunglasses, I like my Oakley Holbrooks. They're top notch. I also use running shorts too. Try to find some with the zippers on the side, just so if you're doing water crossings, you can zip your phone in them. Toiletries, just all-purpose wipes, sunscreen, and bug spray are all great options. The geological features in Zion, most of the rocks are sedimentary rocks made of bits and pieces of older rocks that have been weathered and eroded and deposited layers. These rock layers hold stories of ancient environments and inhabitants, very different from those found in Zion today. In this distant past, Zion and the Colorado Plateau were near sea level and were even in a different place on the globe, closer to the equator. The rock layers found in Zion today were deposited between approximately 110 to 270 million years ago. Only in recent geologic time have these areas been uplifted and eroded to form the scenery in Zion today. As far as what kind of wildlife you can find here, there's a variety of different species of large mammals, small mammals, birds, fish, insects. The thing you'll probably notice the most are the rock squirrels, which can be very aggressive and will sneak into your bag when you are not paying attention. Unfortunately, they get fed quite often, so please refrain from feeding them and keep an eye on your stuff. You will be fined by the park staff if they find you feeding them. Mule deer can be found all over the park, actually decent amount of them here, especially in the greener areas. Very docile and used to people. They won't bug you in any way, shape, or form. The very first time I actually came to Zion, I ran into a group of desert bighorns that walked right out in the middle of the road. Very cool animal. Take your time and enjoy them if you get the opportunity. There's wild turkeys in the park as well, as I stated earlier. Super cool. Like, they get pretty big too. I would keep a decent distance from them. They're probably not going to bug you, but again, these birds can be a little sporadic. There's also California condors, which are an endangered species. So again, definitely keep your distance from these guys. They need all the help they can get. Coyotes and cougar can also be found here, but coyote you're probably not going to see. Cougar you almost certainly will not see. The history of Zion National Park? Approximately 7,000 years ago, nomadic Indian groups first frequented the Mukataweep Zion area. The Southern Pute called the place the Mukataweep, which means straight canyon. The first European settlers, Mormons in the late 1800s, they named the area Zion, which is ancient Hebrew for sanctuary or refuge. Few outsiders visited the region until a federal land survey in 1908 first exposed the area to the general public. The natural splendor of the region so struck the surveyors that they encouraged President Taft to protect it. On July 31st, 1909, Taft set aside approximately 16,000 acres for the Mukataweep National Monument to preserve its many natural features of unusual archaeologic, geologic, and geographic interest. In his proclamation, number 877, the president noted the labyrinth of remarkable canyons with highly ornate and beautifully colored walls, in which are plainly recorded the geological events of the past. In 1918, the Mukataweep National Monument became Zion National Monument, and in 1919, the name changed again to Zion National Park. On January 22, 1937, President Roosevelt established a second Zion National Monument, preserving 36,000 acres. The second Zion National Monument, which is now referred to as Collab Canyons, was incorporated with Zion National Park in 1956. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. I really appreciate all of your support. I couldn't do this without you guys. What I have in mind for some of my next trails, I thought I might take a look back at Zion National Park at the Subway Trail, which I actually did this year, an absolutely stunning hike that I think a lot of you will enjoy. There's the Lakes Trail in Sequoia National Park, arguably the most popular backpacking trip there. There's Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the continuous United States, and Lake Louise, where we can explore the entirety of the hikes there, including the small, large beehives, the Six Glacier Path, and all of the tea houses up in Banff National Park. Really excited to explore all these, and thank you all for joining, and I'll see you on the next one.